Sailing Prepper here. Okay, guys. So, long story short, we're going to talk about the virus. And since the beginning, I've been saying that NIH has a lot to do with it. Anybody who's watched my videos knows this. Anybody who's dealt with this knows this. So, in the next clip, I'm going to show you a clip from Jesse Ventura, where he interviews a person who actually acknowledges this. So please, enjoy the clip, and enjoy the show. And remember, question more.
The world according to Jesse. Nicholas Wade is an author and science writer who has published articles in Nature, Science, and the New York Times. He joins me now to talk about his latest article published on thebulletin.org about the origins of the coronavirus. Nicholas, is it accurate to say at this point that we know COVID-19 originated in Wuhan, China, but no one is certain exactly where in Wuhan it came from or how it actually spread?
I think that's a pretty good summary. Yeah, on the available evidence, it looks more probable that it escaped from a lab in Wuhan than that it came from nature and jumped naturally from bats to humans. So the balance of probabilities is lab escape, I would say.
Now, your article dives into two different theories of where the virus could have originated, but you also state you have no direct evidence for either theory. Can you summarize the two theories for the non-scientists like me out there?
Sure. So the first theory is that, like many pandemics before it, this virus came from an animal in the wild, in this case a bat, and that it jumped to some intermediate host, and from that host animal to human. That's the natural emergence theory, and that's what seemed very plausible from day one, and that's the theory that most of the mainstream media have followed, at least until now. So the other theory, which is also plausible, rests on the fact that there in the middle of Wuhan is something called the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which is the main center in China for studying coronaviruses. And so it's obviously possible that the virus escaped from some experiment in the lab, infected a lab worker maybe, and thus got out into the general population. Those are the two scenarios on the table. As you said, there's no direct evidence for either, but there's lots of indirect evidence.
Now, you interviewed scientific experts for your article. What do they think is the most likely scenario? Are there mixed opinions?
Yes, I haven't spoken to enough people to tell you what the consensus is, but certainly the scientific community, I think, is probably making up its mind just like everyone else. The thing is, the first people who went public with their theory of what happened were two groups of virologists. So these virologists who play around with viruses in their lab all day, they all have their special interest, which is the public not look too carefully into what they were doing and what safety precautions they use. So once these virologists had gone public saying lab escape is ridiculous, it must be natural emergence, everyone else fell in line. No one challenged that theory, and almost by default, it became the prevailing wisdom.
Now, there have been conflicting stories on how much involvement the United States has had at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and what kind of experiments were actually conducted there involving coronaviruses. What are the facts going on, and how involved were the United States in this?
Well, this is still an active issue which we're working out. Excuse me, but as best I can tell, there's no doubt that the National Institutes of Health was funding research on coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The crux of the issue is What was the nature of this research? Did it involve what they call gain of function? That means taking a virus in nature and making it more able to infect humans. So there was a moratorium on this kind of research, on the funding of it. And the question is, did the NIH somehow disobey this moratorium? Their answer is no, they didn't. And
so, like I was saying, guys, if you've watched the whole thing from here on, yes, they still say it's from Wuhan, and that's a good possibility. However, the fact that NIH was implicated, and I've been saying NIH had a good part in this since the beginning. Anybody who's watched my videos knows that. This implicates NIH. So, I've been saying that since the very start of the coronavirus. Anyways, like I was saying, NIH apparently has a lot to do with it as well, in my opinion. That's my theory and my belief. Just remember, question more, Sailing Prepper, signing out. Enjoy the show.